What up friends, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. Today I want to share with you my watercolor exercise session. I'll be working on brush stroke techniques. I'll basically try to get as big of a variety as possible with my brush strokes. I'm gonna try and mix some wet washes, some dry washes, but basically try and understand all the capabilities of my brush. This is a really good exercise that I do, and I choose one brush every time, and I just fill up a whole page with different types of strokes. I try to make the lines as thin as possible. I try to make them as thick as possible. I try to use the side of the brush. I try to twirl the brush. Everything you can imagine that just helps you understand the range of your brush. And these things do translate later on to when you actually are in the middle of a painting and you have that difficult angle to get and you want to paint it, and just because you practiced it so much, you're able to do so, okay? And as a side note, I'm planning on making a Q&A video. So if you have any questions for me that are either art related or non-art related, personal questions, anything you want, don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know your question, or you can send me a message or whatever you want and let me know what you want to ask me, and I'll start collecting these, and when I feel like I have enough, we'll make a video about it. Okay, so don't forget to drop the question in the comments below. So let's get started. This exercise has two main uses. One is to learn the capabilities of your specific brush, how wide of lines it can get you, how thin, all of that good stuff. This is why, by the way, I chose the thicker one and not the thinner one, because the thicker one has a larger variety. This one is size 12 silver black velvet. And so the first one is really to get to know your brush. Now, the second benefit is to just make you more efficient in getting those tough lines or anything like this, because your control actually gets better with the brush. So the first thing here, I'm mixing a somewhat, not really strong, but kind of a wash that has some substance to it. Adding some more water, just because I want to have a large quantity. Getting out the paint. I'm kind of rough with my brushes, I have to admit. I don't really try to be gentle in terms of pens, because pens can be a little hard on the brushes. I don't know, they serve me well to this day, and I have them for a while now, so I guess it's okay. So anyway, now you just want to start with some kind of a brush stroke. So I think what could be nice is to just try and get like a horizontal brush strokes that are just normal. We're just gonna put the brush on paper and see what we can get, which is something like this, you see? Nothing too interesting here, it's just the brush, and I'm putting some power behind it and getting those washes. Now, you want to keep it varied and practice on many different things. So now let's try maybe getting thin ones. It's gonna be a bit challenging because I'm standing up, so let me sit down and try this now. And just try to get very thin lines here, okay? And you see, you need some warm-up sometimes. It's really not that easy to just go straight at it. Now this brush has a tip, but it's still not that easy to always get very thin lines, you see? But I'm kind of getting it, you know, just getting in those thin lines. Now this here works on the aspect of controlling the width of the line. But for example, you can change it and not work horizontally and work vertically, which adds another element of, makes it a little harder. Because I find, for me at least, that vertical lines are very challenging. And I think anyone who has painted boats know that. Because when you have to get that long mast in there, it's really challenging, and I know some people just rotate the page to be at a side angle so that they can draw the mast to the side. It's just very challenging. So just loading up some more paint on the brush and adding some more water. Sometimes when you run out of paint in the brush, you need to add more paint, but also more water, just to keep things a little moist. Let me just zoom in a bit to maximize what you see. Okay, that's better. So now all we're trying to do is work on the control. So let me try again and get some more thin lines, because I feel like this is the hardest thing for me. Now, when you hold the brush, you don't want to hold it really close to the tip unless you're doing really fine details. A good way to practice this is to deliberately hold back on it, because this is when you lose most of the control, and you want to lose some of it deliberately so that you can improve, okay? Now, if I try on the other hand to produce the thickest lines possible, which is not exactly what I did here. Here I just touched it to the paper, but not trying to make thin lines, but also not trying to make thick lines. So let's try and make like thicker strokes here. I'm just gonna add a little bit more substance to the wash. And to get a thick one, you really have to press it against the paper, you see? See how it works? And it's interesting because it starts thin before you press, and then it goes thicker. So this is a really good thing to exercise as well. And you kind of learn how to discover what works with your specific brush while simultaneously improving your abilities. Okay, simultaneously, that's a hard word, let me tell you. So now I'm starting thin like this, and then I'm giving more pressure. Now what I notice challenges me is the way back. You see here I get a gradual change, but on the way back it's more challenging. And then you can practice this, like how to get that tail to look good. Okay, so I try and get the start here, and then whoop. You see, it's hard, it's challenging. And then you may want to go back a bit to some thin lines, okay? I just love this exercise. It drops any expectations you may have. It really lets you just enjoy yourself and have fun with it. Now, the more you get creative with it, the more you find different ways of doing things. So for example, I see a lot of people that love to twirl their brushes like this. You see, and just try to see what kind of line it will get them, okay? And just playing around with it. I know some people love to get this line like thin and then thick and then thin again by twirling the brush. This is something I honestly haven't yet learned how to do or mastered. But I guess it's just, it depends also on the type of brush you have. Each brush is structured a little differently, which is why I think it's so important to familiarize yourself with it, okay? So now what I want to do is try to work the side of the brush, meaning either like this or like just press it really hard onto the paper. So I'm gonna make a wash that's a little thicker, a little more paint without adding water in there. And just because I feel like that'll give me a better result, okay? So I can try and place all the weight of the brush here and just pull like this, you see? And I'm really working with the side of the brush. And here there's no significant texture on the paper, so you don't actually get to see it so much. Maybe if I do it like this, also you're not gonna see too much texture, maybe just here, just a very bit. And it can be a challenge trying to achieve some of the texture to show using this kind of paper that's relatively smooth in this pen. Sometimes what can help to show the surface is to actually make the paint even thicker, like much thicker than you think, and then wipe some of it on the towel just to dry it up, and you can see how you can get more of the texture to show. And again, it's really fun. Maybe you can take it to more extreme and really hold it from the side. Or maybe you can try doing some weird things with it. And this is how you learn. You tinker with it, you play around with it until you learn what gives you the lines you want. For example, what I tried just now, I never thought about before. So let's try it again. So I'm just putting the brush like this to the side and sort of doing this weird action here. Or I'm doing it when it's thin, you know, because you can arrange your brush. If you press it like this, it's going to preserve some of that flat shape, you see? So I can get more of these. And if I just touch, you see how it leaves some of the paper behind. And all those little tricks and things to know, it's just a really good way to, here, you see, less paint. See how the texture comes through? Because there's much less paint here, okay? So all of these things really accumulate, and you can then use them to improve, you know, in anything you do. Let's try, I want to try something a little different. Let me flip the page here or get a fresh page, maybe of the smaller moleskin. I have one left there because I want this to dry. So friends, I'm using my trusty Sennelier pad, and this is actually a good opportunity to make a strong point here. So if you go back to my video on not holding back when using expensive materials, and I will link it up here in a card in the top right corner. If you go back there, I talk about maximizing what you do have and alternating between cheap and expensive materials. So here's one way to save up. I have just some weird scribbles on the other side here that I'm just gonna use this for, because this is really just an exercise. You can use a used paper for it, especially if you have one that you don't need. Now here's another golden tip for you for this specific exercise, and we kind of got to a point of trying to show the paper texture. So here's I'm just doing it again here, and here there's a more prominent texture. So a second tip to do this exercise is use either your cheap paints, like for example now I'm using just the Van Goghs that I am not gonna use as often in the future. Okay, so use your cheap paints for this, or alternatively use a paint that you don't use as much. Okay, and this is a really an obvious one, but kind of I missed it for a long time, because what happened was I love French ultramarine, and when I would start this exercise I'd be like, okay, what paint should I use? Oh, let's use French ultramarine. Now incidentally, this is the paint that I run out of the quickest because I use it so much. So it's really dumb when you think about it to practice this kind of exercise with a paint you use all the time for your actual paintings. So use one you don't use as much, okay? Just a quick tip to help you save up here, because it's an exercise. Now it's super important. I don't want you to underestimate it. But again, it's just an exercise. You're not gonna sell this thing. It's not meant to be shown somewhere. So anyway, I loaded up the paint here a little thicker. Now let's try getting these sort of textures showing with stronger wash. And you see how this works, and it helps you really judge how the brush handles with different levels of wetness, because it's all intuitive. This is just intuitive. You can't really, I know a lot of people like Joseph Zbukvich teaches the watercolor clock. He talks about levels of wetness. You have the tea, you have coffee, you have milk, and all of this, but you will never really be able to master them until you implement them on an intuitive level of knowing how wet a wash should be and all of those things, okay? So yeah, while I'm talking, I'm just trying some other things. So basically, filling the brush with paint, loading it, and then just trying to get a continuous thin line, but with different shapes and squiggles and stuff like that. These are all really helpful. Again, each one in their own right is worth doing. Okay, so you want to try so many different things. You want to try flicking the brush and seeing what kind of result that gives you. Maybe try to go thick and then whoop, flip it, make it thinner. Okay, you want to try as many things as possible, because you will encounter a situation in your painting where you're going to need one of them. Okay, and when you get to that stage, you will be happy that you did this exercise. Now, ask yourself, what will happen if I do that very same thing, but with a much weaker wash, a much more wet wash? Okay, so I'm gonna wet it more, and try to do the same thing and see what happens. Does it flick paint around? You see that here you get more of the paper's texture, and here much less of it. So these things do matter, and you won't learn them unless you really practice them and build up that intuitive knowledge, okay? I love to do this. This is just one of my favorite things to do with a brush, and it's really helpful, and I found it by doing this exercise. For example, if you have, I'm trying to demonstrate a point. If you have, let's do this. If you have an area that you want to fill up until this line, okay, you want to fill in all of that. So using the brush in that way really helps you fill it up close to the line, because you see what the reach is of the brush, okay? As opposed to if you do this and the width keeps changing, but when you press it fully, you can't go past this area. You see what I mean? So this is just a really good way of practicing and learning these things. Now, after you're finished with this one layer, someone's sneezing outside, I hope it doesn't come through. You can go over it again if you want to save up paper. You can still see the result, so it's okay. This exercise is really not meant to waste precious paper or stuff like that. One more thing I want to mention just before we wrap this up, because I think I did quite a lot here, is how you do your lines. So for example, if you want to do a line that's like this, really long, you need to be able to use your elbow, okay? Because you want to raise your hand and just use your entire arm to get that straight line. This goes back a little to the basics of drawing, which I do cover in my course. So by the way, if you're interested in that, check it out in the description box. But it also applies to painting, because if you want to get that very long, thin line, you kind of need to work with your entire arm, okay? If you try to just use your wrist to get that line, you just won't be able to, okay? Yeah, so just play around with it. You can see that if I hold the brush in different directions, for example, like this, I get a very thick and then thin line, you see, because the edge is more more in contact with the paper. So if you, for example, if you want to get ripples of water, you know that if you hold the brush like this, you can get those gentle ripples. You see, they're curved at the bottom, straight at the top. This kind of exercise is really, really valuable, okay? So yeah, this is it. I think we filled up two pages. We have this one and we have this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's wrap up the video. So friends, I hope this is an exercise that looks fun to you and that you will try it as well. I find that it's really helpful. These things are internalized without you noticing. It just happens. When you do it with repeated action and practice, it just gets in there, and once you have to get that efficient wash or things like this, it really helps. And this one actually has a double benefit, because when you're able to put down the wash very easily, very smoothly, you're able to not dabble and meddle too much with the washes under it, and you just get a better result. And washes that are not too overworked just look better, just end up looking better, okay? So I hope this is something you'll try. Just want to remind you, leave any questions you have for me, whether personal or art related, in the comment box, in the comment section, and I will collect these, and hopefully we'll do a Q&A video really soon, okay? So I will see you again in another video tomorrow.